Let's get right into it with ThinkWise. Number 25, the Barnum Effect. You know those personality tests that tell you you're a deep thinker who sometimes doubts yourself but ultimately craves connection? Congratulations, you just described literally everyone with a functioning brain. Welcome to the Barnum Effect, named after the circus showman who famously said there's a sucker born every minute. This psychological phenomenon explains why we fall for vague, generic statements that could apply to anyone, yet we're absolutely convinced they're describing us specifically. Your brain is a narcissistic detective, constantly looking for evidence that confirms your beliefs about yourself. Number 24, the Big Five personality traits. Psychologists spent decades arguing about personality like it was some mystical, unknowable force. And then someone finally said, what if we just measured it? Enter the Big Five personality traits, also known as OCEAN: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Openness is how much you enjoy new experiences versus eating the same sandwich until you die. Conscientiousness measures whether you color-code your sock drawer or throw everything in a pile. Extroversion determines if you recharge by talking to people or hiding in a closet with snacks. Number 23, the Dark Triad. While everyone's busy taking quizzes to figure out if they're an introvert or extrovert, psychologists identified 3 personality traits that make you sound like a supervillain: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Together, they form the Dark Triad, describing people who are manipulative, callous, and have the emotional depth of a parking lot puddle. Narcissism is when someone thinks they're God's gift to humanity. Machiavellianism is named after the guy who basically said morality is for losers. Psychopathy involves a charming lack of empathy and the ability to lie smoothly. Number 22, Type A and Type B personalities. In the 1950s, 2 cardiologists noticed that their heart disease patients all seemed to have similar personalities: competitive, time-obsessed, and more stressed than a cat at a dog convention. They called this Type A personality, and then created Type B as basically everyone who isn't having a stress-induced meltdown. Type A people turn everything into a competition, including things that absolutely should not be competitions, like who can finish their coffee faster. They're achievement-oriented, impatient, and have a sense of urgency about everything, including relaxation. Type B personalities are more laid back. Number 21. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Based on Carl Jung's theories, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator is the personality test that convinced millions of people that they can be reduced to a 4-letter acronym, like some kind of human airport code. INFJ, ESTP, ENFP. It's basically astrology for people who think they're too smart for astrology. The test sorts you based on 4 dichotomies: introversion versus extroversion, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. Mix and match these and you get 16 distinct types, each with their own supposed strengths and weirdly specific career recommendations. Number 20, attachment theory. Attachment theory explains why some people treat relationships like a game of emotional hot potato, while others cling on like a koala on a eucalyptus tree during a hurricane. Developed by psychologist John Bowlby, the theory suggests that your early experiences with caregivers create internal templates for how you relate to people forever. Secure attachment is the golden standard. People who had responsive caregivers now have healthy relationships. Anxious attachment means you're constantly worried about abandonment. Avoidant attachment is when emotional intimacy feels like a personal attack. Disorganized attachment is complete relationship confusion. Number 19, the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a personality system that divides humanity into 9 types, each represented by a number, because apparently we needed another way to categorize ourselves besides zodiac signs and Myers-Briggs letters. Type 1 is the perfectionist mad at the world. Type 2 is the helper who forgets they're also a person. Type 3 is the achiever whose entire identity is accomplishments. Type 4 is the individualist having an emotional crisis and calling it depth. Type 5 hoards knowledge like a dragon. Type 6 is the loyalist whose anxiety has anxiety. Type 7 runs from pain. Number 18, Jung's Archetypes. Carl Jung looked at myths, religions, and stories from around the world and noticed the same characters kept showing up: the hero, the wise old man, the trickster, the mother figure. Instead of thinking humans are unoriginal, Jung decided these were archetypes, universal patterns in the collective unconscious. The hero wants to overcome challenges. The shadow is all your repressed traits. Anger, jealousy, and darkness you won't admit exists. The anima and animus represent feminine and masculine energies everyone possesses. These archetypes supposedly exist in everyone's psyche and show up everywhere, from mythology to modern movies. Number 17, introversion and extraversion. Jung also gave us introversion and extraversion, two words brutally oversimplified into people who hate parties and people who love parties. The actual theory is more nuanced and has to do with where you direct your energy, inward toward your inner world or outward toward external people. Introverts recharge through solitude and introspection. Social interaction drains their battery like a phone running 10 apps simultaneously. Extroverts gain energy from external stimulation. Isolation makes them antsy and bored. They're the people who think out loud and make friends in grocery store lines. Number 15, Locus of Control. Locus of Control is a fancy psychology term for whether you think you are the captain of your own ship or just a passenger on the Titanic of life. People with an internal locus of control believe their actions directly influence outcomes. They think success and failure are results of their own efforts and choices. People with an external locus of control believe life is controlled by outside forces. Luck, fate, other people, the alignment of planets. It's the difference between I failed because I didn't study enough and I failed because the universe hates me and the teacher was out to get me. Number 14, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow looked at human motivation and decided to organize it into a pyramid because apparently everything important needs to be a pyramid. At the bottom are physiological needs, food, water, shelter. Next is safety, security, and stability. Then love and belonging, the psychological need for connection. Above that is esteem, respect, recognition, feeling like you matter. At the very top is self-actualization, where you supposedly become your best self. The idea is you can't focus on higher level needs until the lower ones are satisfied. It's hard to contemplate your purpose when you're starving or worried about paying rent. Number 14, self-determination theory. Self-determination theory says humans have three basic psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy means feeling like you have control over your own life and choices. Competence is feeling effective and capable. Relatedness is feeling connected to others. Satisfy all three and you're intrinsically motivated and thriving. Autonomy is why micromanagement makes people want to quit their jobs and possibly fake their own death. Competence explains why people love video games. They provide clear feedback that you're getting better. Relatedness is why humans desperately need social connection even when other people are objectively the worst. Number 13, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. The Dunning-Kruger Effect explains why the most incompetent people are often the most confident, which clarifies a lot about the internet, politics, and that one coworker who won't stop talking in meetings. Psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger found that people with low ability in a domain dramatically overestimate their competence. It's a double curse. Not only are they bad at something, but they're too bad to realize how bad they are. Their incompetence prevents them from recognizing their incompetence. Meanwhile, experts tend to underestimate their abilities because they're aware of how much they don't know. Number 12, cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological discomfort you feel when you hold two contradictory beliefs or when your actions contradict your beliefs. Your brain hates inconsistency, so when you're faced with information that challenges your worldview, your mind goes into crisis mode. You believe you're a good person who cares about the environment, but you also drive an SUV and take long showers. The contradiction creates discomfort, so your brain finds ways to reduce it. Maybe you tell yourself your individual actions don't matter. Congratulations, you've rationalized away the dissonance instead of changing your behavior. Number 11, the halo effect. The halo effect is why attractive people are assumed to be smarter, kinder, and more competent than they actually are, which explains why good-looking people glide through life on easy mode. When someone has one positive quality, our brains assume they have all the positive qualities, like their attractiveness radiates a halo. This affects everything from hiring decisions to criminal sentencing. Studies show attractive people get hired more often, receive lighter prison sentences, and are perceived as more trustworthy with zero evidence. Your brain sees a symmetrical face and concludes this person must also be honest and good at math. Number 10, Impostor Syndrome. Impostor Syndrome is the persistent belief that you're a fraud who doesn't deserve your success and will eventually be exposed as the incompetent pretender you secretly are. High achievers experience it constantly, which is ironic. The people who are objectively accomplished are convinced they're fooling everyone, while actual imposters waltz through life with unearned confidence. People with imposter syndrome attribute their success to external factors: luck, timing, other people's help, anything except their own abilities. They live in constant fear of being found out, as if everyone is secretly watching, waiting for the moment they prove they don't belong. Number 9, social identity theory. Social identity theory explains why people lose their minds over sports teams, political parties, and whether pineapple belongs on pizza.
The theory says your identity isn't just about who you are as an individual, it's also about the groups you belong to. You categorize yourself into social groups, then derive part of your self-esteem from those memberships. This creates a sense of belonging, but also creates us versus them mentality faster than you can say tribalism. When you identify with a group, you automatically start seeing your group as superior, because if your group is terrible, that reflects badly on you. Number 8, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Carol Dweck divided the world into 2 types. Those with a growth mindset who believe abilities can be developed through effort, and those with a fixed mindset who believe abilities are carved in stone. People with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities to learn. They view failure as feedback, not a referendum on their worth. When they struggle, they think, I can't do this yet, which is annoyingly optimistic but effective. People with a fixed mindset see challenges as threats that might expose their limitations. Failure confirms what they already suspected. They're not good enough, so they avoid challenges and give up easily.
Number 7, the 5 love languages. Gary Chapman decided that people express and receive love in 5 main ways: words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts. Everyone has a primary love language, and if your partner speaks a different one, you're basically having 2 separate conversations about love while both feeling unloved. Words of affirmation people need verbal appreciation. Quality time people want undivided attention. Physical touch people need hugs and affection. Acts of service people feel loved when you do things for them. Gifts people feel loved through thoughtful presence that show you're thinking of them. Number 6, the flow state. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi studied optimal human experience and called it flow, that state where you're so absorbed in an activity that time disappears and you're performing at your peak without even trying. Flow happens when the challenge of a task perfectly matches your skill level. Too easy and you're bored, too hard and you're anxious. But when it's just right, you enter this magical state where you're completely focused and action and awareness merge. Athletes call it being in the zone. Gamers experience it when hours pass in what feels like minutes while they're completely immersed in gameplay. Number 5, the Bystander Effect. The Bystander Effect explains why people are less likely to help someone in need when other people are around, which is depressing but makes sense in a twisted way. The more bystanders there are, the less responsible each individual feels. It's a diffusion of responsibility. Everyone assumes someone else will help, so nobody does. The effect was famously studied after the murder of Kitty Genovese, where dozens of people reportedly witnessed the attack, but nobody intervened. When you're alone and see someone in trouble, the responsibility falls entirely on you. But in a crowd, your brain calculates that someone else is probably more qualified. Number 4, the fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error is why you think other people's mistakes reveal their character, but your own mistakes are just circumstances. When someone cuts you off in traffic, they're a selfish jerk. When you cut someone off, you were distracted or running late. We attribute other people's behavior to their personality and ignore situational factors. But when explaining our own behavior, we emphasize the situation. Someone failed a test, they must be lazy. You failed the test was unfair, and you were dealing with stress. The error is fundamental because it's so pervasive and automatic, affecting how we judge everyone. Number 3, the mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect explains why you start liking songs you initially hated after hearing them 50 times on the radio. Repeated exposure to something increases your liking for it, even if you weren't paying attention and even if the thing is objectively neutral. It's why advertisers blast the same commercial at you repeatedly. They're literally making you like their product through sheer repetition. Your brain interprets familiarity as safety and positivity. If you've encountered something multiple times without negative consequences, it's probably safe, so you develop a preference for it. This works for faces, songs, words, brands, even meaningless shapes. Number 2, the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the belief that everyone is paying way more attention to you than they actually are. You spill coffee on your shirt and feel like everyone is staring and judging you, but in reality, most people barely noticed, and the ones who did forgot about it within 3 seconds. Your brain operates under the assumption that you're the main character and everyone else is observing your every move. This creates massive anxiety because you think every mistake, awkward moment, or bad hair day is being scrutinized by an audience that doesn't actually exist. Research shows people overestimate how much others notice their appearance and mistakes. Number 1, the self-fulfilling prophecy. The self-fulfilling prophecy is when your expectations about yourself or others actually cause those expectations to come true, like a psychological time loop where beliefs create reality. If you believe you're bad at math, you'll avoid math, not practice, and then fail at math, which confirms your belief. If a teacher believes a student is smart, they give that student more attention, and the student performs better. The prophecy works in both directions. Positive expectations create positive outcomes. Negative expectations create negative outcomes. It's why confidence matters so much. When you expect to succeed, you behave in ways that make success more likely. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.